Find yourself in relationship after relationship with someone who just can't meet you emotionally. Maybe they're hot and cold. Maybe they say all the right things, they look good on paper, but something always feels just out of reach. And no matter how much you hope, no matter how much you try, you can't get through to them. It's confusing, it's painful, and in the end, it leaves you wondering if you're the one doing something wrong, if you're just unlucky in love and doomed to keep repeating the same handful of painful scenarios in all of your relationships. Hi, I'm Madalena, and this is You Reclaimed. Here we talk about the hidden ways that complex trauma affects our emotions, our relationships, and our decisions so that we can finally take back control and live our lives on our own terms. All of us come into our adult lives with a blueprint for what love should look like. And that blueprint is based on a lot of small things, but a large part of it consists of all the little things we saw in our younger years that combined together, put together, now make up our idea of love. And if our parents were together and in the same home, our blueprint of love is mostly based on how they interacted with each other and on how they loved each other and also on how they showed love to us. So let's say that we were very, very lucky and we grew up in a home with two parents who were together happily. Maybe we watched our mom make long, relaxed breakfasts on the weekends, and we saw our parents laugh and talk together about their week, about their friends, about the mundane stuff of life. Maybe our parents did chores together or work together, and they showed us what civil and respectful and even warm and loving conversation can look like between two people who genuinely enjoy each other's company. If we were lucky enough to have this kind of childhood, our blueprint of love is mostly a positive one. It's a blueprint in which love looks consistent. It's dependable, maybe it's even light and fun and full of positive emotions. And if we start out with this kind of blueprint, even if we have negative experiences in love, like heartbreak or infidelity, or we get into relationships with people who are not well suited to us, we tend to bounce back. We come back to what that default blueprint of love looks like for us because unconsciously we trust love. We trust that love is good and that it will bring us good things. So even if we run into trouble, by and large, we tend to recover well. So starting with a positive blueprint of love gives us a level of resilience and of hope right from the get-go. But instead of this positive scenario, maybe you grew up in a home where love came with distance, with unpredictability, with emotional coldness, or even with emotional chaos. Maybe you grew up in a home with two parents who only tolerated each other. So instead of cooking together and laughing on weekends, they picked at each other. They criticized each other. They threw insults while you tried to duck and keep yourself out of the way, to make yourself invisible. Maybe you watched your parents argue about affairs or other kinds of violations in love, whether they were physical or emotional or financial dishonesty, or just the bounty of poor behavior. For a lot of us, our home life was somewhere just in the middle. Maybe our parents didn't know how to love each other with consistency and respect and dependability. They didn't necessarily have to argue all the time, but instead of talking, maybe one of them shut down when the other wanted to talk about anything of relevance, anything important. Maybe our dad went down to the local bar every time our mom wanted to discuss something that had to do with her feelings. Or maybe it was the other way around. Maybe our mom disappeared shopping every time she hurt our dad's feelings, and instead of talking about it, she ducked out. In this case, our blueprint of love was stamped with inconsistency, with a lack of reliability. Because when love shows up one day when things are good, and then it disappears entirely another day when the atmosphere changes, you learn that this kind of up and down instability is just what love looks like. And we haven't even gotten to the part where we talk about the way our parents loved us. Because when our parents don't know how to love each other, when they can't express healthy and balanced emotions towards each other, they're likely to have the same kind of stunted, unstable, and an inconsistent emotional relationship with us. That kind of environment wires our nervous system to expect instability to an extent, even to crave it because it's what we're used to. And even if we do have good experiences in love, if we're fortunate enough to meet people that we are compatible with and who are emotionally stable and right for us, because that original blueprint for love looks negative for us, we're always looking for that instability. And when we don't find it, we end up feeling like something is missing. A lot of us who have this kind of difficult love blueprint find ourselves in a very familiar and predictable kind of experience. We meet someone new, everything looks good at the onset of the relationship, but it's missing that spark or the passion. Because for us, that feeling of passion is actually the emotional chaos and inconsistency that we keep craving, that we learn to chase. When you've had a chaotic upbringing, passion very, very, very often looks like emotional inconsistency. It looks like uncertainty. That feeling of not knowing really, does she love me? Does he choose me? When your love blueprint is based on not being loved, you expect love, well, to feel like crap. So then here you are as an adult with this somewhat mangled blueprint of love. What happens now when you meet someone who's emotionally unavailable or emotionally inconsistent with you? It doesn't necessarily feel bad. In fact, it feels familiar. And familiar usually means it has a spark. Familiar lights up really fast. So how do we end up in these relationships that just play out the lack of love or the lack of consistency in love that we saw in our own childhoods? Why do we do this to ourselves unconsciously? For one, we try to recreate that old love blueprint that is so familiar to us. We get involved with a person we've never met, but we're still trying to finish an old story from back when. There's a part of us working hard in the background that still hopes, this time maybe I can fix it. Maybe this time I'll finally get the love that I didn't get before. So we're in a new scenario, but we're running a script of a very, very old one. And it's not your conscious mind making decisions, it's your emotional blueprint. It's that imprint of love that's pulling you back to old pain, hoping for a different outcome. And when you get involved in this kind of relationship, it means you're in for a lot of hard work trying to gain that love, trying to get the consistency and the stability that you didn't get in your childhood. Another reason is that love activates us. The harder we fall, the harder we get activated. And it's not just that you're attracted to unavailable people, it's that they stir something in you. The wound of not being chosen, of not being prioritized, and of not being enough, really. And your nervous system wants to resolve that wound, even if the situation is painful. So you unconsciously put yourself to the task of proving your worth so that you will be chosen this time. The problem is that you get involved with people who you unconsciously know can't choose you, because this gives you the chance to play out this old emotional piece of theater that you're still involved in. Many times when you get involved with unavailable or inconsistent people, you get stuck in a reactivity loop, and it involves you physically. Your body physically starts reacting to the inconsistency from the other person, and it shows up as all kinds of physical symptoms like anxiety, tension, OCD sometimes. When the person is present, you feel amazing. When they pull away, you feel panicked. Your body physically feels panicked. This push and pull dynamic is incredibly addictive because it triggers your original wounds. And in turn, it triggers a trauma response. And it keeps your brain locked in this survival mode, chasing the highs and dreading that crash that you know always comes with each of these cycles. When you're trying to love in this survival kind of state, you're not seeing clearly. You're seeing through the lens of these old wounds. So you stop asking, do I even like this human? Do they show up for me? Are my needs actually being met? Because instead of doing all that you should be doing when you meet a new person, you start obsessing over how to get them to love you in the way that you needed to be loved long ago. So then we have to start making better choices so that we don't spend our entire lives chasing this love that's never coming, because no matter how hard we try, we cannot replace the proper love we didn't get as children. At their very best, our partners cannot replace that love. So our own relationship to this dilemma within ourselves, it's not a job that can be resolved from the outside by another person. We unfortunately are the only ones that can replace that loss by showing up for ourselves. We don't want to be drowned to emotionally unavailable people, but it's also unrealistic to expect that we'll be fully healed before we ever fall in love, because most of us are still in process when we start connecting intimately with other people. So if that's the case, then instead of waiting to be ready, all we can do is to become aware of our patterns and to start recognizing that healing, it doesn't really happen in isolation. It happens when we smash ourselves against experience, when we connect with other people. So It happens in relationship. What we need is the right tools to navigate our relationships so that we don't keep repeating the same painful dynamics. When we do find people who are right for us, who are emotionally available, who want the same things as us in life, that's where the next part comes in. So we start by regulating our nervous system, because before we can relate in a healthy way, our nervous system has to come down to a base calm, to a base peace level, a level of peacefulness that allows us to not react just from trauma. This is why at least starting to heal ourselves is so important. It's almost impossible to choose healthy partners until our nervous system is somewhat regulated. Otherwise, our trauma responses will make unhealthy things feel like chemistry and healthy things feel boring. They'll feel stable in a way that we don't even recognize because we don't connect to that stability. Emotional safety can feel awkward at first if you've never known it. Complex trauma makes us feel confused when we don't have to bust our butts to earn love, when we don't have to force ourselves to prove that we deserve to be loved, when we're not trying to contort ourselves into various shapes to prove that we're the most interesting, the most beautiful, the most intelligent, the most worthy. None of that is actually necessary in calm and stable love. So we have to start by noticing what triggers us in relationships. When we feel the urge to chase someone, we have to pause and ask ourselves, what exactly is being triggered? And what is the trigger? Is it the other person's silence? Is it their lack of warmth? Is it their inconsistency in communication with us? Is it because they criticize us? We have to start noticing what we're reacting to and what it reminds us of. So breathe and get really curious, and always ask yourself, is this love with this person, or is it a familiar pain that's dressing up as love? You can rewire what love feels like to you. The more you become aware of your patterns, the more power you have to shift these patterns. You can start to make different choices, not from a fear or a lack of something, but from a grounded place that is emotionally solid, where your self-worth is not tied to someone else's inconsistency or behavior from day to day. If this is the pattern that you find yourself in, it's not because you're broken or there's no way to fix it. It's because your nervous system and your blueprint of love, that original idea of what love looks like, it was shaped by chaos, by emotional inconsistency. But this can be rewired, and you can learn to find peace in steadiness, evenness, even if that seems completely unfamiliar to you. Instead of chasing, you have to choose what you really want, not just chase what is being offered to you. And when you learn how to do that, everything changes. Does any of this sound familiar to you? Let me know in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if you want to join me for more of these conversations, subscribe. We have a lot more to talk about. If you recognize in yourself how much your attachment style is rooted in trauma, if you recognize these kinds of reactions in yourself, you're going to want to watch my other video on our trauma-driven habit of weakening our own boundaries. It's all about how we recognize that we need to strengthen our boundaries to have better relationships, to attract people that are right for us. See you in the next video.